I always found it very hard to trust people.
It's kind of a front that you come in every day and you get on with your work, but you're fighting a battle.
I think from that time I developed all my habits in terms of dealing with things.
Shut the lid, and if the lid was getting a bit higher, you just keep it sort of firmly shut.
As soon as you put that tag on it, people stigmatise it. It's not, everyone has the same issues.
The last time you two saw each other?
Oh, we worked last year, wasn't it? We were doing a podcast.
I think so, podcast, yeah.
We were doing
Liquid
a podcast.
football.
Yeah, it was going well. It's Sir John as well.
Sir John, I heard about this.
He's on my phone as Sir John.
Why is that?
Was that year at Stoke when I was there? He was just banging in goals, winning games, going away with Ireland.
Don't want that to stick.
You don't like that, do you?
Hey,
No.
Sir John.
It's about the FA Cup. What were your earliest memories as a kid of the FA Cup?
Saturdays, always a cup match, then the cup final. Just wanting to watch it as a kid, yeah. Everything, all the build up the whole day. You're watching it on the TV. Never went to a final as a kid, and then as I got older, played in the youth cup final and got absolutely battered.
I can't believe you've gone down that road early. He wanted to get out early, didn't he?
Oh yeah, Sidwell's the co-host. Oh yeah. Just get that out of the way. Go on, talk to us about it.
Go on, you can tell us that
FA
one.
Youth Cup final, wasn't it?
Absolute thumping.
Arsenal versus Blackburn. We'd won it the previous year.
Yeah.
Arsenal, so it was going for the back-to-back, and we come up against Blackburn. Good Blackburn team.
We had a good team. The first leg was down at Arsenal because it was home and away, wasn't it? Wasn't the final. Your team was unbelievable.
Yeah, Pennant run the show.
Yeah.
I think we're 5-0 up, was it, first leg?
I think it was 4-0.
Oh, 4.
4-0.
Just the 4.
4-0 first leg. Pennant, yourself,
Yeah.
Jerome Thomas, Ali Aladier.
Yeah, there was a few.
Jerome
Bentley.
Ricketts.
Yeah, Ricketts.
I think every player in their team went on to have a career, near enough, and then 4-0 first leg, and then second leg, I remember Jermaine Pennant didn't play.
Yeah.
He didn't turn up or something
I think
happened.
he was with the first team.
But
he ran right on the first leg and then...
yeah, we I think we won 3-1 second leg.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
It wasn't as bad 5-3 overall, but
His FA Cup
that was the first stage of playing in it.
His FA Cup got off to a dream start at an early age. Did you support anyone when growing up? In Everton.
So we won it 95.
Yeah.
Poor ride out. Against Man United in the final. Poor ride out off the bar. Someone at the bar. Poor rider had it.
Header, yeah.
So my brother went to the semi-final at Leeds. I think it was Amakachi scored a couple. But yeah, final Everton won it. Yeah, I think it was the last thing we won. 95.
But talking about the FA Cup, it was actually an FA Cup game as a player that kick-started your career, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, I started at Blackburn and Bolton, and then I went down the leagues to Hull. Got a couple of promotions with Hull. My daughter was ill at Hull. I went to Wrexham for a year, Chester, and I had 6 months at Chester.
Yeah.
Mark Wright was the manager, and we got beat by, it was Bury in the second round or first round even, and then they got drawn with Ipswich the next round, so we were all gutted. And then later on that week, there was an investigation because they fielded a player they shouldn't have played, so they got kicked out.
Yeah.
So we got to play Ipswich. So we had them at the Diva Stadium at the time, and then it was 0-0. It was a good game. Probably should have won as well.
Yeah.
It was 0-0. We got a replay. So we went to Portman Road, played there, and then about a week later I got a call saying deal's done with Ipswich. Off you go in the morning. I was making dinner there
How mad
with
is
the
that?
kids, and got a call. Next day I was down in Ipswich signing, and then obviously from there, because I've been in the Premier League with Bolton, went down the league, so I knew what it meant. And it was, you work hard, but to get that break again, it was down to the FA Cup, and then went into Ipswich, and it was no looking back from my time at Ipswich, really.
Before that, there was a lot of loan moves, wasn't there? It was a bit stop-start.
Yeah.
Sort of. How hard was that in terms of not finding a home move? Like, was you living out of a suitcase near enough? Did you ever feel settled at a club?
Do you know what? I was a kid at Bolton, and I thought I'd made it. At 17, 18, I think 18, 19, I thought I'd made it, and I was absolutely flying in the first team. I was involved in every game. I was on the bench or in the squad. I had a number 12 squad number, and just going as a kid, you think, made it, had a bit more money, and I wasn't living right. And then I went out on loan just to play games.
We say not living right.
I think as kids, all your mates go off and what are your mates doing at 18? They're going to pubs, aren't they? They're going there. And I wasn't necessarily drinking, but I was just staying up late and not living right, and my home life wasn't great, and I was constantly spending time with my mates and turning up with no sleep in training, but still doing really well. And then I went to Hull on loan, and I scored 5 and 12, but that culture was all about team bonding, everyone going out, and sort of like, well, this is how it should be. Yeah, we were flying, we got 2 promotions, and I was still growing up. You're still growing up. You get the first bit of success, you're not mature, are you? And it was great, but it was difficult at the same time, because at Hull, I had a daughter who was born really, really ill, and I've touched upon it before. She was touch and go. She was born with everything outside her intestines, her stomach, and I ended up living in a hospital on a pull-down bed, no wider than this, for me and my wife. And I was in there for months, but I was going to train every day, because I think they said I didn't have to. I'm not going to be involved in the games, got to deal with this, but I was going to train every day, and looking back, that was my release.
That was your get out. That
was my get out, because as soon as you're on that pitch, everything's forgotten. As soon as you train, everything's forgotten. But then I was back, and I was picking up clothes, back in the hospital, and my daughter had an op as soon as she was born. But I didn't know any difference. That was my first child. That was just what you do, deal with it. And she had another op a few months later, and then we got to bring her home. And then at that time at Hull, I think I went on loan to Scunthorpe to get some game time in me, and then I came back, and I asked Hull to leave. I was like, I need to be back home with my daughter. She was still skin and bones, a few months old. She was less than she was what, 10, 11 pounds, probably a few months old. She was, but we didn't know any different than myself and my wife.
Yeah.
You just got on with it. And looking back, I feel more for my wife, because I could have that release of going and playing, but she couldn't. So it's difficult looking back, but you just deal with what's in front of you at the time. Then I went to Wrexham. The club were in administration. It's a difficult year, probably still getting that thing where you're dealing with everything. And I think at the end of the year at Wrexham, I think you'll know the same. You have children. As soon as you have that one, everything changes from being a selfish point of view to you. Everything's for your kids. Yeah. And then the whole stance shifted. It wasn't for me anymore. It wasn't for anything else but my family and my daughter.
Yeah.
So I went from that. Wrexham were in administration at the time. They signed me the next day. Hull really looked after me. Peter Taylor, the manager. And I went to Wrexham, and then they offered like a 1-year contract at the end of the year on less money because of what everything was on. And I think it was £100 difference a week. Chester could offer me, and they could offer me a 2-year contract. And at the time, I was like, I have to do it. And they hate each other as well.
Yeah.
So that was a big reason. And I didn't feel I should have been offered the same amount other people were, and I thought, you know what, I'm not getting offered great here. They could offer that, and it was a 2-year deal. They ended up signing for Chester. I had a couple of friends that I knew there, and it was I was playing really well at Chester as well, and there was quite a few teams watching me and a few teams coming in to sign me. I think they turned down a few bids, and then it just happened we played Ipswich in the FA Cup, and I think you can look at that and say that was a huge turning point in my career.
It's like a lifetime, isn't it? Just condensed into
big time.
Yeah.
How old was you then? When your daughter was born? And
daughter was born in 04, so I was 21. So but we knew she was going to be ill when my wife was pregnant, because she had the scans and she had to go back every couple of weeks for a scan, and she tried to come early, and she was still born very early, and my wife had to have an emergency C-section because she went into labour and the waters were dirty, and it was going to be a C-section anyway. She had to have another one. Yeah, 21. So you're still a baby, really. You look back now, and people think you're grown up, but you're not. You live in the football world, and you're still a baby, and you just deal with it. There's not really that help, especially lower down. I'd say at the time, there's not really that help. There is help there, but it's not really. You don't know how to access it.
But that's after losing your mum at a young age as well. Like, how did that mentally affect you? Like, trying to make it into
my mum. Do you know what? Yeah, it's difficult because, well, Mum when I was in year 6, so I'm trying to think now, my daughter's in year 7, she's 12, is 11, I think, 11. And then I think from that time I developed all my habits of when I was a player as well in terms of dealing with things. So I went back into school the next day. People asked me, is it okay? I had this big fun. Yeah, I'm fine, yeah. Got on with it. It was sort of a taboo subject where you didn't really speak about it with anyone. Just dealt with it yourself.
That's wrong though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's so wrong.
Do you know what? And life's moved on, life's changed. Now, I won't mention his name, I spoke to someone very high profile in a similar position. He has children and he deals with it the opposite way and he's taught to deal with it in a different way, and I think that was just at the time.
Yeah.
And now the counselling for kids and families is second to none. To talk about, to speak, to openly have those conversations. And it was something I always kept inside, and during my career, you make mistakes, you do things, and sometimes I put things down to it was a cry for help from me because I didn't have that support there as a kid. Going into situations, I always dealt with things myself, and I could see everyone else had the mum and dad doing things, and I didn't really. It was on my own a lot.
Yeah.
And then everything during my career, my whole thing, it was from my family, but it was from my mum. It was for her memory. That was people ask about Ireland, and I say from a very early age that was what I wanted to do. And I didn't get into football till 15 as well. Year 11 in school, I didn't go through the academy system. So when I got that chance, I was like, this is, you know, in her memory, and that's what you do it for.
Yeah.
That's what everything's for me.
Because Steve, could you tell when you were playing with John at Stoke that there were underlying problems, that he was struggling or anything like that?
Whenever I played against John when he was at Stoke, you knew that you was going to come off with cuts and bruises. It was going to be a battle. It was going to be, you had to earn the right, you know, to win a game. And then I think when I played with you, the year and a half that I was at Stoke, it always just seemed as though you were so mentally strong. That was one of your main strengths. But you'd pick up a knock, and I'd be like on a Thursday in training, you might walk in on training game, my knee's sore, no good. And I'd be like, he's out for the Saturday. Before you know it, he's having a jab in his knee and he's playing on a Saturday. And then he's scoring on a Saturday. And it would just become a kind of recurring thing where you were just putting a lot of things. Like I say, to describe it, I'd say it was kind of, you was carrying a box.
Right.
And you'd put stuff in the box,
Yeah.
shut the lid, and you'd carry on. And if the lid was getting a bit higher, you'd just keep it sort of firmly shut.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say that's where I developed the habit from when I was younger, from when my mum passed away. I think I could literally put something and forget about it. And I have a running joke with my wife that, in a way, it's not good. I do it to this day. Yeah. So in a way, I'd say it's not a good thing because people say it'll come back, but I say I have a running joke that something happened 2 years ago, and my wife said, "Do you remember that?" And I'm like, "I don't remember it." Because anything bad, I can forget about it, but it's still there somewhere, but I can forget about it. So I think that went off in football. That huge one was the Chelsea game when I scored 2 goals. And I have a good family. I went home, they all laughed at me and put it on telly. And it was there even this week.
Cheers.
My little boy's gone, most embarrassing moments on Sky. It came up this week. I couldn't believe it. It was on there.
That is you looking to your own.
Yeah.
So just recap on that. So the Chelsea game, it was Chelsea at home at Stoke.
Chelsea at home at Stoke. I've run back after one. Ran past about 3 players and scored an unbelievable diving header for Chelsea though.
I loved it. I remember it.
And then the second half, I've tried to mark Lampard in a corner, lost him, just tried to jump, and it's hit me at the back of my head and went in and I thought, this is
2-0 down, 2 own goals.
2 own goals. Also kicked the ball in my face when I tried to cross it. No one really speaks about that one. And then last minute I get a penalty. I win the penalty, so I'm like, I'm having this. I've got to put this to bed. And I just thought, I'm just going to hit it right down the middle as hard as I can. I've hit it and it's clipped the top of the bar. And it's probably gone right in the back of the stand because the bar stuck it off.
Would you like to fly in my beautiful
I think there's a clip of me just going, And I'm just thinking, but the fans were unbelievable. They were singing my name.
But they loved you, didn't they?
At Stoke, yeah, they were unbelievable. And to be fair, one of the big things I remember from that game is JT and Frank Lampard coming up to me after the game, having a few words with me, but in a really, really good way.
Brilliant.
And I always remember that because not many people would go out the way to do that.
Yeah.
What did they say?
don't worry about it. Like, it happens. Like, you're actually one of the better players. You're playing unbelievably well. Keep it going. Like, you're having a good season. Like, along those lines. And I really took that and respected that, because not many people will go out the way to say that when someone's having a bad time. They just won. I think they came straight over to me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. But going back on putting things away, that was one of the things I could just put away. I can put things away straight away, and the same in playing. Any injuries, I could just... The amount of injuries people don't know as a player you go through. Yeah. I think Ben Thatcher gave a great line at Ipswich to me. He said, never be too high and never be too low. You'll be like that during your career. Just take it steady. Don't get carried away with it. Don't get too down with it. And I think I always carry that with me. Because the injuries, you're low. There was times I'll be draining my knee twice a week to play on a Saturday. I didn't train. I trained on the Friday. I drained my knee on a Tuesday and Thursday to play on a Saturday. There's other times where I wouldn't train in the week. I mean, you might have been before you were there. I couldn't feel my arm all week. If anyone touched it, it was in agony. But I'd have a local anaesthetic to play on a Saturday, and I'd be in bits then the rest of the week, and that went on for months. Things like that no one knows about, and you just, as a player, you just get on with it. You're taught to swallow it and get on with it, really, aren't you?
When I lost my dad, for a year I was fine. I was looking after my brother and my mum and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, bang, like that. The only thing I could think of to get me through it wasn't going for a run or play golf, it was alcohol. And I literally, we've been out, I used to be a state, but it got to a point where I'd be drinking in the mornings just to try and keep on an evil kill, do you know what I mean? To try and feel mentally good. I couldn't just store it away, I had to do something, so.
On both your points, was there a specific time where, or a moment that you was like, I need help, or a sliding doors, and the same for you, like John?
I always found it very hard to trust people. So I kept myself to myself quite a lot. I'd be very, very private. So sometimes I'd always go home, and I didn't live in an area where a lot of lads lived. I'd live on my own. I'm very private. I'd keep myself with my family. So I found it very hard, even in a friendship group, to trust people. And even in a friendship group, you get people that try and take advantage of you outside of football, and you think, it just adds to it. So I think when players come out of football, they find it very hard to trust people that they haven't played with or that are outside of football. And that always stays with me.
Right.
And that's, so when you're going to talk to people, even if you feel like if you want to talk to a club, I feel like you can't, because you feel like they're going to use it some way against you. Even agents, some way, there'll be some very good, and I was lucky to have a good person looking after me, but a lot only care while they're making money for them, and as soon as they're finished, they don't care about them. And
that's brutal, isn't it?
That's the industry, though. That's the industry.
It is a brutal industry. It's a sink or swim industry, and it is like that. And it's interesting to hear John say that, because someone that's strong-minded and as powerful as him, it's kind of a front as well, that you come in every day and you get on with your work, but you're fighting a battle behind.
Yeah.
Any of the clubs, did you feel throughout your career that you was possibly close to a manager or a player or someone within football that you could speak to or open up to? Or was you ever close
manager,
to
no.
doing it?
I'd say in the manager, no. Because I think you always kept your distance with things. I think you had to, in a way, because I think footballers are the same as everyone else. Footballers go through every problem that everyone else will go through. That's what I tried to get out in a couple of interviews I've done. They'll lose people close to them. They'll go through people with diseases. They'll have problems with the kids. They'll have financial issues. You'll have mental health issues. And this whole mental health tag bothers me, because it's not mental health. Everyone goes through the same thing. It is mental health, but as soon as you put that tag on it, people stigmatise it. It's not. Everyone has the same issues. There's no one that doesn't go through the same issues that I go through. Yeah. So it was random, and from what I've learned from this situation, it's called unloading. Sometimes you unload on someone. Henry Winter did an interview with me at Burnley, and he asked the question you asked about mum. And no one had ever asked me that question. I've gone down a route, and I broke down with Henry. I literally just went. There's a photographer there doing the interview for the paper, and I was like, and he wanted to stop, and I was like, you know what? No, I'll carry on. I'm going to tell you everything now. And I went through my whole career, mistakes I've made, everything, stuff I've held in. And I was like, I basically unloaded everything on him.
Was it just like, thank God for that?
Yeah, but then on the back of that, I was so nervous about the piece coming out because he was like, look, we won't run it. And from the back of that, I got a real good trust bond with Henry, and that's why I ended up doing a PFA interview with him and asked his advice on certain things because I could trust him. The interview came out, and on the back of that interview, the messages I got were unbelievable through Twitter, Instagram. I was trying to reply to people, thousands. It was ridiculous, and the messages off kids that were 16 to men that were in the 90s saying like, oh, I never realised, or I've never spoke about it, but you coming out and actually saying something has really opened my eyes to now I'm going to go and speak to someone. And in the back of it made me feel great that I could, it was an unload, but then immediately your guard goes up again now.
Helping others.
Immediately he goes up because then people are looking at me different, but honestly, people stopped me and there was not one bad comment from what I'd said. And it was a massive sort of
Release.
It was a release, and then I did that, and I wasn't playing at Burnley at the time. I had an operation on my knee, and then it got even worse, to be fair, as me, because then you still go into your habits of not speaking, and I went back and you sort of open up to your wife and your family, and you get all these things that no one really knows because you don't want to get upset in front of people. But what I found out is it's not strong keeping it in, it's strong actually going and speaking about it.
Yeah.
And that's so important for people watching this.
And for people that think,
Keep it in.
there's still people that'll say, oh, you know, and look down on you for doing it. It's so much harder having to say it, and the strength of someone being open and dealing with it, the amount of people you help, and the amount of help it gives you immediately to have someone to speak to.
You're so right, because when I came out, I went enough's enough with the alcohol, like I'm going to be dead soon, and more importantly, I'm going to upset all these people around me. Like obviously my mum lost her husband, my dad, and I was like, what am I doing? So I was like, right, this is enough's enough. I can't have everyone crying and ruining relationships and stuff like that. So I just went on Instagram, said, look, got a drink problem, and I was like, yeah, everyone was like, respect, and now like the amount of times at the weekends now I'm like, people are like, Tubes, can you help me with like, I think I've got a drink problem, and it's, you know, you can help others. It's so important to speak out, and it makes you feel like as soon as you said it, you're like,
Yeah.
it's out there now, and then people support you as well because they know you have a problem. But if you keep it all in, no one can help because no one knows.
I think it carries a lot of weight when someone like John's character as well, that strong, someone that was on the pitch that never showed weakness, that then it's not, when you open up, it's not a weakness, is it?
No.
It's not a weakness.
No,
You're just expressing.
I said at the time I didn't go on and play a lot for Burnley either. I said that in the first year, and then like a lot more happened in that year that I came out and said as well, which was difficult, which is unbelievable. Do you know what? I was in pre-season in Burnley, and I was in my hotel room, and I got a call off my eldest brother. I had two brothers and a younger sister. My brother rang me and said, "Listen, I've got something to tell you." And I was like, and even with the fact, I'm not great on the phone. Said to you before, I'm not great on the phones. I don't.
No, he blanks me all the time.
Honestly, I'll message back like in a month or something. Yeah. That's just, I hate phones. But he rang me and I was like, I'm here. That's a bit odd. So I'm like, hey, you okay? And he's like, and I knew then. I was like, go on. But he was like, James, and I was like, who was a year, just over a year, 2 school years above me, but just over a year older than me. And I shared a room with him my whole life. And I think my mum passing away hit him the hardest and affected him the most. And he got into a crowd, and he had mental health problems. And he was ended up being on antidepressants for a number of years and being schizophrenic and had all these issues. And he passed away. He passed away through a problem with his heart, but it was all down, without a shadow of a doubt, all down to the medication he was on, and he wouldn't leave the house, and he went to it. He'd eat and not exercising, always on takeaways, and he got quite big, and but he wasn't as big as you think, but ended up passing away through a problem with his heart. So immediately I was like, right, I'm on the next flight home. But we were training first. So before training, I think I've pulled Robbie Brady and I said, listen, Rob, like, I had to tell someone. I was like, I don't know what to do. And we had a running session. I remember it, we were down in Cork and we had a running session. And he was like, just go home. I was like, can't, I've got a flight at 2 o'clock. I've just booked a flight. I'm going to train. So I trained, did the session, pulled the manager after the session. Told him, nearly went but didn't, and said I need to go. And he was like, fine, whatever we can do to help you, we'll help you, blah, blah, blah. Went home, saw my wife. At the same time, my wife was pregnant, but I'd lost the baby, same day. Same day, day after. Day before. No, it was either the same day or day after. It was literally that exactly the time, but we didn't tell anyone because we were like, this has just happened with James, my older brother. We sort of kept it to ourselves, and we were like, right, not to take away from what's happened, but then we kept that to ourselves. So then, me being me, in a selfish way, and football's a very selfish world, I've gone, I have to go back and train. And there's a pre-season game, and I flew out back to Cork the next day. And the manager like, what are you doing? I was like, I need to play, I need to be involved, it's okay, nothing can be done at home.
But football's your medicine, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Nothing can be done at home. And I look at, what am I doing? But then I was going, I need to play. I didn't play last year. I need to be in the team. You have all these things going through your head. I can't not miss a game if I don't play, and I went and played a game. And then the next day, my daughter got diagnosed with scoliosis. It was like, this was like within 3 days, and she's my eldest daughter, which she's still got to have an operation, 2 metal rods put on her spine to straighten her spine. And I was like, but then this happened to my wife as well, so how strong she is dealing with it, and has kept that to herself because no one knew that because of what was happening with my brother. So with the funeral, I was going back and forth to Burnley every day and trying to organise a funeral. With my brother and sister, but the majority, myself and my wife, like took a lot on, and we're doing it, and you're dealing with all these things, and that's just. But when I go back to saying we're no different than anyone else, that is everyone's job. Everyone does the same things. Everyone goes through these things, just happen to happen at once. And I came out and said it on the Late Late Show in Dublin. No one knew I was doing it, and it might have been an unloading thing. They got me on to speak about whatever. They didn't know I was going to say it. I knew I was going to say it. But then, in a way, I've told everyone, but I've told all my family as well. Yeah. That way, it might not have been the right thing to do, but I just did it. And on the back of that, again, there was the amount of people that they said it helped, got in touch and said, I didn't realise you could speak about it. I didn't realise, not that it doesn't happen to you, but you've actually spoke about it. It's really helped me. And I think from that point, I've been more open. I still do the same things now. You still go into those habits, but one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with the PFA so much, because there's so many difficulties players go through. I know what everyone goes through. We're no different to any other person in the public. Anyone. Yeah. Everyone goes through the same things.
I just want to touch on, when we started our careers, it was very macho, egotistic, wasn't it? Can't show a sign of weakness. And then, do you see signs coming out of it now, where we've finished now? Is it slowly a bit more open-minded, or is it still, do you feel as though it's still bravado, you can't open up?
I think that's still there. I think it's got to be there to an extent, because that's the industry. But I think it is changing in terms of the academies now. And clubs will have psychologists, academies will have psychologists, and the amount of work goes into the well-being of kids, and they go through the processes, and they'll have certain things. And from the time being at Stoke coaching, I know if they feel like someone's got an issue, they'll pull them, or they'll have people speak to them, and that's helping, and that's trying to get lads to open up and speak. But I think as a player, think even finishing as a player, it's difficult because you've achieved you aim for something your whole career, and from Premier League to League Two below, it's elite. It's an elite level. People say League Two. It's an elite level of sport. There's not many people that get there.
No.
So you're playing at the elite level. You've got every problem you've got to deal with. You're playing at the elite level. You're taught to suck it up and get on with it. But then you get to a certain age, which is 20s, 30s, and you've reached your pinnacle of your ambitions as a person. Achieve it at a very young age compared to everyone else, and whatever everyone else wants to do. It's a very young age to do it. So then when you retire, you're always taught to deal with your problems in a way internally because you don't want to share it.
Yeah.
You've reached your ambitions. Everything's going to be a come down from there, really. What's the next thing? There needs to be a lot of planning going into people, I think, for that. But what's your next thing? All your friends and family want to talk about is football or what you're doing next.
So true.
Well, you struggled massively, didn't you? I remember you saying the phone stopped and you didn't know what to do and you broke down, didn't you?
So what you're doing next? That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
What are you doing now?
Yeah, I mean that's the hardest thing for me in terms of when I finished, and it'd be similar to you. It was as though a massive chunk, not just of my life, but of the family. Like my wife and kids, they used to love coming to games.
Right.
So the whole build up to the week and the game on the Saturday, you know, leaving the stadium, grabbing a takeaway, you know, the weekends, it was all built around the whole structure of the family was built around football.
And you as a person, it's selfish because
Well,
it's all around you,
Yeah.
isn't it?
You're the main focal point. Sort of,
Yeah. And then for me, my biggest thing was I just lived and breathed football. I didn't really have much interest outside of other than football. I'd love a bit of golf and you know, bits and bobs, but football was my biggest sacrifice. And when that stopped, I couldn't fill it with anything. I really struggled. Now to even to this day. There'd be some days that just pass by and that are great. There'd be a couple of days where I'm like, really, really struggle. I think where John says there about unloading sometimes, I think they're brilliant.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. But whether that can be done more often, then you know it might be a way forward and a progression.
I think, well, I know from speaking, and even then I wouldn't have spoke about a lot of things for a while. I know speaking to people about your issues helps immensely.
Massively.
And I'd be an advocate of that from anyone. Just talking about football, anything, just speaking. No one cares that. There's no embarrassment to anything because everyone goes through the same things. But when you've said it to someone and you have that support and knowing that, okay, they know how I feel, and honestly, there's no embarrassment. The more people can do it, the better you feel.
Well, a problem
honestly.
shared is a problem halved, isn't it? If no one knows that you're struggling, no one can help you.
Yeah.
And he's right. When you finish, everything stops. Everything's structured around playing. If you go back on the football team, everything's structured around that. You might have made good money, and the very few make good money. There's a lot of lower down that don't make. Well, there's a lot of players. I'd say 95% of players will have to work again, have a second career.
Would you say
for
95%? Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because you'll have the ones that'll make an enormous amount of money. But then if you look at the statistics, and I think it was a study in 2015.
Divorces and bankruptcy.
And it was something like 30% within a year are bankrupt, up to 75% in 3 years, or divorced, and then all the issues that come with that. Because again, it goes back to trust as well. You might have had bad financial advice, and I know a lot of older players have had that and are still going through that as well, that have lost everything. So you've earned all your money in the career that you've gone and had, and that was your main way of making money. When you finished and you thought you provided for your family, you've lost everything when you finish. What do you do? Where do you stand? So you think of all the mental health problems with that then, and there's a lot of players. And when I said I was lost, it's not, you want to go into something, you want to help, but what do you do?
My way of describing a footballer's life, and you might agree with me here, it's like a fake life. It's not real, is it? But like a professional football player, it is not the real people out in this world, because you're getting paid ridiculous money. You're on highs and lows every week. You're getting paid for something that you love, and football's like wrapped in its own bubble, isn't it? And then when that stops and you come out of that bubble, like we'll know players, the foreign lads that come over that won't know how to pay the council tax, won't know how to pay, you know, any kind of utility bill, won't know how to, you know, find a nursery for their school, won't know how to get a GP. It's all done for them. So then when you come out of that bubble, isn't it? It's like a real culture shock.
Premier League players will have massive problems, and because of money as well.
Right.
Because of living a certain lifestyle, having that fame that comes with it. There's all different problems. So I've seen the problems from every level. So there'll be different problems. League 2 players and League 1 players and Championship players will have some Premier League players. But that doesn't mean they don't get them as well. And if you go on those statistics as well, you imagine being there and losing everything or having different type of problems. I think a big one's trust at the top level, because you've got to be so private, because everywhere you go out, on a night out, you either get stick off someone, or you either get photos constantly, or you want to be with your kids and you're holding your little boy or little girl, and people are always coming up to you, and you feel like that's your privacy space, and you can't really have that a lot.
I was going to say, with the trust thing as well, do you know who your proper friends are? Because so many people want to be with you because you're a Premier League footballer, want to be going to the best nightclubs. Can you tell the people who, once you're retired, they're just going to go, see you later? And is it upsetting when that does happen? You're like, I thought we were...
I'm really lucky in terms of the real close group of friends that I grew up with from school, from knee height. We're still really close now. So they're my go-to, but other people haven't got that.
I had a really good group. I came into academy at a late age, so I had a really good group of, like, we won a national cup as my team.
Yeah.
National amateur cup at under 15s or something. And I went to Blackburn, and then I was still coming home and going out with those lads quite a lot, and I was still living the wrong lifestyle.
Right.
Because, as I said, that was all what everyone else was doing, and I think I unconsciously made a decision. I had to leave that, and when I got older, I left that, and it wasn't that I was leaving a lot of friends behind. I had to leave that because that's what everyone else was doing. So I had to sort of take everything on myself, and that's when it's a very lonely place, because you're so focused on doing what you want to do, or have to do. Because I could have carried on that, and I wouldn't have made a career out of football. So I had to subconsciously, but consciously at the same time, make that decision to leave that. So that was hard, and because you're leaving a group of friends that you've sort of grown up with as well, and not in a negative way. That's because the saying you forget where you come from, and never forget where I come from. Never forget people that helped bring me up as a child as well. I still see families and the area that I came up from. I live around the corner from now, and I'm trying to do things to help that area. But at a certain age, you've got to make those decisions, and a lot of kids are growing up and go for university or school, and you're immediately thrust into an adult world with men it's a ruthless, cutthroat world.
Yeah. And talking about friends in football, you had a great bunch, didn't you, at Stoke for the year and a half you toured together?
Well, that dressing room that I walked into was, for me, and I've been in some good dressing rooms in my career, that was the best dressing room that I ever had. It was that good.
It was
carnage.
It was carnage. It was funny. It was great, wasn't it?
I mean, like the highlight of the day, literally, would be the 2-touch before training. They just game. Everyone's in a circle, 2-touch. Yeah. Lose 3 lives or 2 lives. Ear flicks.
God, the ear flicks.
Listen,
I don't get that.
It wasn't just a little ear flick.
How aggressive did it get?
Lads, honestly, I'm not exaggerating when there was blood drawn from me as Bailey.
Honestly.
There was lads with bruised heads all over their eyes. Lads were just getting... But that was...
There'd be a technique where it'd be sort of... And you'd follow through as well. So people were like doing press-ups in the gym before, like 2-touch, to get these going, and just sort of like... There was some, like Marco Arnautovic had a flick, Bardo had a flick, but it got to a point where people, because they knew it hurt so much, they'd bend over and they'd wait for it, and they'd hold their ears like that. So people were just flicking foreheads.
It's on a Friday, like an away game in a hotel, say where we are now in Wembley, you've got the apartments there, and if anyone ever stayed in a hotel where you could see into the physio room, we used to take over a huge room for a physio room. And on a Friday night, we used to get everyone in on a Friday night, and we'd be sweating, wouldn't we? We'd be dripping wet, just playing buckets. 2-touch.
You're having in your boxers or a pair of shorts, wouldn't you?
And I put a video up the other day of the lads messing around on a pre-season one. But that was the type of thing, lads, we just mess around, and it was a real good group. And people always thought at Stoke we brought in whatever messed it up, we brought in players from abroad and he didn't have that. We had some great lads from abroad. Marko Natovic was a great lad. Bojan, Mark Muniesa, Joselu. There was unbelievable lads, and people thought they might have not been. That's what might have broke up the Stoke dressing room. It wasn't.
They were all in together, were you?
They were great lads.
Yeah.
They were. It was a really good team spirit, and I still speak to a lot of the lads now. I still speak to. Obviously, Ryan's gone to Miami. Not a bad move. Rob, who's I think going to move back to Germany. I was speaking to Bojan the other day, and it was an unbelievable group of lads, and they're friends, and they were good guys, and everyone knew they had their back with it.
But that team spirit and that togetherness, that gets you 12, 14 points, let alone in the season. And it's mad to we sit here and we had such a strong group and such togetherness and trust. I know John says about the trust, but you still can't open up. You still can't talk about feelings that something that's on your chest or you're carrying that you can't feel as though you can confide in someone. That's how mad that football world and dressing room is, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is
it's
crazy.
like a bubble.
You're such good friends.
Yeah.
And you quite happily flick each other's ears and stuff like that, but you wouldn't say like I'm struggling.
Or even as simple as I'm just having a bad day today.
Yeah. Do you know what? We would have been more than happy sitting in a changing room like this if I would have just turned around and say, lads, I need to sit down, I need to I'll probably take one person to do it, and I think as soon as one person would do it, I can guarantee everyone in the change room have their own problems, and that will create such a bond. And I think that could be a way forward in a way for different parts of football.
So, in games and with a run of games, how do you find it of not getting too high and then not getting too low? Like you're saying that even line. What stops you going up and what stops you literally crashing?
I think that's
down.
What a lot of people struggle with as players. When you see it as players, that's what a lot of people struggle with: consistency or dealing with how to deal with their emotions. And a younger probably went out and did things like that. Or football was released from the real world. Football was released different ways, but in football, not getting too carried away. I think it was finding an anchor, and I think for me, my anchor was my wife and kids, and having that and knowing that I could go home and be taking the mick out of straight after a match, whether I had a bad game. Chelsea one was a great example.
Brilliant.
To then not getting carried away, because you know as soon as you've had a great game, you're going home, you've got to do dad duties and you've got to do things with your kids. And I used to be able to switch off straight from the game and go into spending my life with my kids and doing sports with them. And like now I'd help, like I'm a grassroots coach for my boys under 10s team. I'll go and watch my eldest play across, the other one doing dance, and you just basically now you're just a taxi. You're doing things like that, you're getting into the real world and you're doing things that everyone else does. And I think finding that anchor, being at home, not getting carried away, I think that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And not, it's easy to go on social media and read the comments, and you still do. I think everyone's sucked into it. That's not the real world.
No.
Social media isn't the real world.
No.
Having your anchor there at home, or having someone you can talk to, I think even now I'm finding that having someone you can just ring up and unload to, or ring up and no one else knows, they're not judging you, they're not doing anything, and like genuine people. And I think the more you open up to people, the more you speak to people, I think you'll find there's a lot more people in the same position as you're in.
Absolutely.
It's the same as well for a lot of footballers in terms of their partners, whether their girlfriends or their wives. They're the ones that catch the brunt, don't they? And over time, they slowly know what to say, when not to say, when to leave you alone, when to, as you say, to make a joke, make a laugh out of things. And they're very important to a football player, and the family life is so important, isn't it?
Without my wife there behind me and talking through all the problems I had as a player, and you take it from a very selfish point of view, I'm straight back in training, you forget how they deal with things. And without them, or having a partner there, I think it'd be very, very difficult. I don't think you'd have the career you'd have, because that support and knowing that they're all unconditionally, they're always there for you, and they're like, they bring you down to earth, or they're so strong, and they go through every emotion with you as a player, and every difficulty you face as a player, an outside player. There should be a lot of people that can help the families of players, and I think we're more seeing that now. We're going more into that, where people are realising that.
The one thing that I found the back end of my career, and I think that's even massive now, is the social media part, in terms of, so after a game, you'd get on the bus and everyone would be on their phones, and they'd all be looking at Twitter, Instagram, all these,
Yeah.
and looking at kind of the negative comments as well. So say if someone's had a stinker, you'd be going, oh, you'd all be looking at the sort of the Twitter form or the social media, and you'd be going, like, whoever down the, oh, yeah, you read this, you've seen that, and they'd be like, nah, and then they get on there and they sort of show that front as though it's water off a duck's back, but really they're like, bloody hell.
This can't be mentally good.
That's what I mean. It's there's got to be a balance now and a fine line of.
I think you got to realise it's not the real world. I think I came to know that as a player. It's not. You look at the people that are doing it, or you see someone down the street, and actually that's probably the person that's abusing you, or whatever. You think it's not the real world, and people are drawn to negative comments, and people read them. Either don't do it. It's hard not to do it, but it doesn't matter if you're football or not. I think in every walk of life, people are drawn to the negative side of things. I think we're taught that we're taught that in the whole media world. If you pick up a newspaper or look at a story, not many of them, or not many column inches are dedicated to positive things. It's all on negative side. So everyone's drawn to that. I think
Bad
that's
news
a problem
sells,
for
doesn't it?
society.
Yeah.
Bad news sells. There's problems in society. We probably need to look at and start focus on more positive things, and having, well, if you are feeling that way as well, having someone to go and speak to, and having those conversations with everyone with, because the more you do it, the more you realise it's not real. They can't hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With all these things, and yeah.
So John, when you went on loan to the lower league teams, how would they approach the FA Cup?
Completely different way. I think times at Wrexham, Chester, Hull, the teams I was at, you go in at a lower level, so you're always waiting for the draw, always waiting to see who you've got. That's brilliant as a player. You're waiting to see it on TV.
Would you always watch it together as well?
No, but whether it be, well, might have been before all the WhatsApp groups and all the phones and everything came about.
The dangerous WhatsApp groups.
But you would, yeah. Some
It is
teams
nervous,
would,
isn't it? As a
it's nervous
player,
because
you are
it's
nervous.
Really?
Watching that draw, yeah.
You either want a great team away as a lower league player, or at home. You want to play in these stadiums, but then if you think you get them home, you get a chance. Or you want a really rubbish team.
Yeah.
Honestly, or you don't want someone that's, say if you're in League Two, you don't want like top of League One. You're thinking, oh, great. Or a Championship team, you want a big hitter.
Yeah.
Or someone that you've got a great chance against.
Right.
And then once you get further on the round, it's all about getting in that third round draw, because you know the big boys come in, and then it's about getting a big draw. And then honestly, watching a draw as a player, and even as a fan now, I watched Crouchy doing one the other day, and you texted him straight away, big long on coming in. The Rod Stewart one, wasn't it?
Even he said that was the most. He said that's one of the most nervous things he's ever done.
Really?
All the shows, the games,
Can't mess up,
the
can
big,
you,
the
with a draw?
big, the big matches
I've
that he's
never
ever
done
done.
one.
He said that was the most nervous, one of the most nervous experiences he's ever had to do in his life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never done one, but I'd imagine you don't want to mess up or drop a ball through. It's live, isn't it?
What draw has gone? It's been you've watched live and gone, yes, come on, we've got them.
I think the semi-final one.
Oh yeah, the Bolton.
Bolton,
Yeah.
because you didn't want the two big teams. You knew if you got City, you've got a very slim chance of going through. Whether it doesn't matter who you got, you knew if you got them that year, you're thinking, oh, don't get them, because you want to get through to a final. Once you get in the final, you got a chance.
Have you ever been on the flip side where you've been a Premier team like a Stoke or a Burnley, and you've been knocked out to a minnow?
No.
No. There you go. Stay strong.
Yeah.
You know what?
Exactly. Mentality.
I don't think.
No cup upsets for
think-
John.
No, we've been close.
What about you?
Yeah. Lincoln. I was at Brighton at the time. We called it the Lincoln 11. The Lincoln 11 just got thrown lambs to the slaughter.
How long ago was that? Is that when you had Gareth McCauley? You had the two 6'7" centre halves.
We just got bashed up.
Yeah.
We got bashed.
Like a
No,
proper-
in saying that, we went 1-0 up.
Yeah.
So Chris Hughton changed the team. We went 1-0 up away at Lincoln, thinking half-time, happy days. Come out second half, 1-1. The crowd started going, and you're thinking, here we go. You know what's going to go on. Then it's 2-1, and then that's it. All the fans are on the pitch, and then you just waiting to be exposed the next day in the papers.
Talk about men's.
Great weekend.
Yeah.
I think one of them was the Lincoln 11.
Talk about football being 90% mental. That's a prime example, and that's why cup upsets will always happen, because players that play at a higher level always think it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's not. And it's those players, they'll always raise the game because they think they've got to, and I've been in that position, you've got to impress, this is my chance. If I play these and I play well, I could get a move to either these, or people know I can play at that level.
Right.
That's what happened to Ipswich.
Yeah.
So as a player lower down, that's what you're thinking. And this is your cup final, this is your Wembley moments. This is you'll never play against a Premier League team if you're in League Two unless you go through the leagues. Very, very rarely does anyone play all through the leagues. And as a Premier League player, you're thinking, these will be easy. They're not on a same level. We're better than them, technically better. And they'll always try a lot harder than the Prem teams. And the ones that go through, if you get a Premier League team that will match the fitness and match the work rate of the lower league team, they'll always win on ability. Or 99% they'll win on ability, because ability will come through in the end. But they'll always take it that little bit easier. And that's why there's so many cup upsets.
Will the lower league players verbal you as well? Would they be like, oh yeah, Charlie Biggs, bud, sorry, you've got to win this. If you don't win it, you'll be in trouble. Do they give it you in the ear as well?
Where's now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on you, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're on you. How much you pay for? How much they pay for you? Really? You're a Prem player?
And
I had one kicking lumps at me in that Lincon game. Half time, I was coming. He's asked me for my shirt.
Really?
Walking in at half time, I couldn't believe it, and I was like, "You can do one."
That's a thing. So they will try and, because how are you going to beat a team that's technically better than you? And I always love that as a player. You can outrun. If you can outwork someone that's technically better than you, the satisfaction that always gave me. How can you do it? And that's what they were thinking. How can we get one over on who we're playing against? How can we put them off their game? And verbals, tackles, everything. But then when it comes down to ability, there's a lot of very good players in those leagues. So you will have a team, and there will be a player in that team. You think, geez, he is unbelievable. There's always someone in that. There's always goal scorers. There's always someone that have one chance and score a goal. Yeah. There's always a couple of players that are let go from Premier League academies or work their way down. They've got that ability, and whether life choices or unlucky, they've ended up in that situation.
We talk about emotions and experiences. We're here obviously at Wembley. Just going back on like the FA Cup itself, and like you've been out there, you've been in an FA Cup semi-final. What was it like?
Just the 2 goals.
Do you know what?
What was it like? What was it like going into that?
I've had 2 of the best moments in my career. Scored 2 in both games. One was for Ireland to send us through to the Euros in the playoff game with Bosnia, and the other one was here, the semi-final here. So we had Matt Jensen and Rob, who scored very early on.
So let's just go to the day. So you've got drawn against Bolton.
Yeah. So,
right? So
we've had a great run in the FA Cup so far.
Yeah.
I think we've beat Danny Higginbottom, scored an unbelievable kick. We've beat West Ham. We've had Cardiff in extra time. I scored 2 down in Cardiff. Beat Brighton. Just you know, the year's going really well. Got drawn Bolton, and I'm not too sure who was in the other one. It was City, someone. So you're thinking Bolton, you've got a great chance. And then it changed, didn't it? The year before, to the semis were at Wembley.
Yeah.
So I think we came down here in the week or 2 weeks before. Tony Pulis, we were walking around. We came down the track. So literally walk around, went back on a train, and went home. But it was his way of going, I want you to familiarise yourselves. I don't want you to turn up on a day and be. I want you to know the walk. I want you to know the dressing rooms. Great idea.
What, so you was actually physically allowed to come into the stadium and walk around?
Came in, yeah.
So before the game, or when it's drawn out against Bolton, are you thinking...
Well, we got a chance to get into the final, yeah.
Is that, are you your favourites?
I think you're thinking we don't want Man City.
Yeah.
They were flying. I think you don't want Man City. I can't remember who they were playing. I just thought, we don't want Man City. You're thinking Bolton. As a player, you always think you want the weakest out of the 4 teams.
Yeah.
And Bolton would have went, we want Stoke.
I think it was United. I think it was City United in the other semi-final.
But Bolton will say we want Stoke, so they would have been rubbing their hands as well.
Yeah.
So coming down, we've got in the changing room, the whole thing about the day. Here's another thing as well, you don't see. My wife had a cesarean 2 to 3 weeks before with my little boy. Because we had to have one of the first child, she had one at the second and third. She drove down here. You're not meant to drive. She drove the whole family down. She's
put it in the box. she's done a Sir John and just put it in the box.
Honestly, she's drove down, and obviously cesarean. It's like major surgery. Open. So she's drove down in bits. Came down with 2 of the kids. You come down here, so that you know they're travelling down. You're checking they're okay, checking they got the tickets, and then we come in the change room. I think Ricardo Fuller did a speech because he wasn't playing at the time. Whether he was injured or I'm not too sure. He might have been on the bench, but I remember him doing a speech and it was quite a powerful speech. I think Tony Pulis wanted him to do it. So you go out there and the Wembley pitch is huge, so you shattered straight away because no matter what, no matter how many games you've played and you go and play in a big game like that, your legs 10-15 minutes, you're gone. You use all your energy, whether it's everything, all the emotion, everything coming on you, and then first half we go 1-0 up, 2-0 up, absolutely flying. Matty Evanson, Rob Huth, two great goals. And
I remember Matty's goal outside the box, wasn't it, left foot?
yeah, I'm trying to think whether Kenwin scored second half, first half. I think Kenwin was third, and I think it's at that time a lot of fans are still really nervous because they were thinking, how can we mess this up? Do you know what I mean? You were for Stoke, it's an unbelievable thing. They haven't been in that position for so many years, and I've picked it up in the own half. Ran with it for a while, I think. Had the lad chase me, I've brushed him off, and that's my favourite position to be in. We used to do the shooting on a Friday every day, and that was my favourite position, to pick the ball up and curl it in that far corner.
Yeah.
So I picked it up, and it's Jessica Landingall, who I knew from the time at Bolton as well. And he was an unbelievable keeper. Yeah. And I couldn't have hit it any better. I've touched it inside. I think Gary Cale's gone to block it, and I don't even look where the goal is. I know exactly where it is, and I hit it perfect. It just sneaks in the far corner, and I ran straight over and trying to pick. First thing is, I'm trying to pick my wife and kids out in the crowd because I know they're there, know where they're sitting, I know they're in that area. So I go over to them, still can't pick them out.
So
That's what I'm doing, I'm looking for them. Wow. Because that's a moment, that's who you do it for.
Yeah,
all these moments, it's not for me. I've always done that as a player. It's not for me. They're the people I do it for. They make all the sacrifices. You're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your friends, you're doing it for your kids you've played with in school. You're doing it for everyone like that. That's how I took my career.
Nice touch.
So that's who I'm looking for straight away. That immediate thought, and it's relief almost. It's like I've scored a goal, 4-0.
Mrs. is up. She's like, oh God.
She was. She was like unbelievable. So she was in bits. She was in bits. Yeah. But you think you're just going through all these emotions, and then obviously there's another one later on. I think it's come across. Andy Wilkinson, who's never scored for Stoke. Never scored a goal. He had an unbelievable chance, but he decided not to score. He decided to shank it to me to set me up. I think it's somehow gone over. A few people tried to block, whether hitting the floor, it's gone over a few and gone. It's gone. I think there's a few people trying to slide in to block it, and it's just gone over to make it. Yeah, it was an unbelievable feeling.
At the Stoke end as well.
At the Stoke end, and then you just enjoy it. You know you're in that moment. You know you're through to the final. And from saying highs and lows, that was my highest point, and that was one of my lowest points of final. Coming here and playing City and getting beat because we were in with a great shout. I think Kenwin might have had a couple of good chances in the game.
So let's start again. So we've played in big games against teams that you know, if you go toe to toe, that you're not going to win because they're better players than you. So what would TP's team talk would it have been? Would it have been, listen, ruffle a few feathers, they're staying in the game, keep tight? What was he saying before the game, or the build-up, or the plan?
We'd always have our way of playing Stoke. It was different away from home, but we'd always be up and at them in people's faces. And we had players that could play in that team. Yeah. We had players during my time at Stoke, Matty Evanson, Tung Chai, Ricardo Fuller, Adiga Johnson, John Carew, Michael Owen came. We had a lot of players that could play football. And when you came, people are comfortable with the ball. It's not just what you think on Altus Bojan. So we had all these players that can play. But in that team, it was press, it was play, it was where can we get the second balls. But you're playing against a Man City team, and for me, that was the most difficult thing about Man City. It was when they were going for the league title, when they just come good. They could outplay everyone. They had unbelievable players in the team, but they could out-muscle anyone as well.
Really?
Yeah. Vincent Kompany, Yaya Toure, Balotelli was in the team.
I remember looking at the bench, and there was Milner on the bench, Patrick Vieira was on the bench.
On the bench. He's a Dutch lad in midfield.
De Jong.
Nigel De Jong. Yeah, Nigel De Jong.
You couldn't
he was tough,
them.
He?
They were so tough. So if you wanted to mix it up with them, which we were so good at with different teams, you try and beat them at how other teams don't want to play. They could do it. So we were it wasn't the greatest of games. We were defending a lot. Tommy Sorensen pulled some unbelievable saves, and then if you remember the goal, I'm sure it was Yaya Toure. it was an unbelievable one.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're deflated. Everyone's come again.
But that
all
was
these
midway
tickets.
through the second half as well. So you've gone 60, 70 minutes 0-0 with City in an FA Cup semi-final. Were you thinking, all we need is one chance?
Yeah, you
or
need one chance.
pens?
Can you get it to extra time, pens? And you think, but you know, in the back of your mind, if you win that, you've always won it. You've got that there forever. It can never be taken away from you. You can have everything you want in the world, but you've got something like that, it can never be taken away from you as a player. Fair play to all the players like yourself that have won Premier Leagues and FA Cups, and you know, I've never been fortunate enough to do anything like that, but it can never be taken away from you. And then you've got to climb those steps as a loser as well, and you're like, oh, it's a blow, and it's an experience no one can take from you. You played here, but I've played here 3 times now. I played it against England in a match as well. We drew 1-1, so 1-1, drew 1, lost 1. Not mixed bag. So as I said, highs and lows of football. There's a high, there's a massive low, the same place. But you've got to be positive and just keep memories of somewhere like here as in the positive things and take back from it. And you go through a journey with everyone else you're playing with and your family and the fans as well.
Amazing. Well, John, that was absolutely class, mate. Really, really enjoyed that and wish you the best of luck.
Sir John.
Sir John. Top man.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.